Hey everybody, what's good? What's going on? JB here, back with another CyberInsight live stream. We're back, I think it's day 5 now for the Advent of Cyber, and today we're going to be doing a room looking at cross-site scripting. So yeah, we're going to hop right over into it. As always, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe, share the video with your friends, and all that good stuff. So if you have any questions as we're kind of moving through all this, go ahead and throw those in the chat as well. I mean, you kind of know the deal at this point, so. Let me move over into the other browser. Here we go. And I'm going to scroll down here a bit. And we are down to day 5, Web Exploitation, the Pesky Elf Forum. So again, continuing along with the story here, the Elf Forum is where all the elves express all their joy and excitement about Christmas. But the Grinch Enterprise has one bad admin account, and they've installed a plugin that changes all mentions of Christmas to Buttmas. No good. McSkitty needs to find the admin account and disable that plugin to reinstall the Christmas cheer and get rid of the vulgarity that is taking place on the Elf forum. So what are we talking about from a technical perspective today? So we're going to talk a little bit about what cross-site scripting is. There's a few different types of cross-site scripting, and then we have the challenge walkthrough. I will say for those who are unfamiliar with cross-site scripting, they probably will point us to some additional rooms that really cover this. I would also say if you go and take a look at the Comptia Pentest Plus learning path that they have a section that goes under application-based vulnerabilities. And they have a few different things in here that would definitely cover that. Cross-site scripting always is one of the things that ends up showing up on the OWASP top 10, which is kind of like the top 10 web vulnerabilities. So that is definitely a additional step that you can take if you want to learn a little bit more about it. So just from within the room here, what we're talking about, so cross-site scripting is classified as an injection type of attack where malicious JavaScript gets injected into a web application with the intention of it being executed by other users. So if you can get JavaScript to run on a victim's computer, then you can do a whole bunch of bad things. You can steal their cookies. You can get a keylogger to be able to track all of the different things that they're typing in. Or you can even redirect them to a totally different website or perform some other type of action, such as placing an order or resetting their password. Resetting their password is a key one here because that's what we're actually going to be doing later on in the walkthrough. So there's a few different types of cross-site scripting that they want us to talk about here. Again, we're just mentioning it here, but if you really want to do a deep dive into running through different scenarios of these different types, then definitely go do some of the other rooms. So you have document object model is one of the 4 different types, and it's a programming interface for HTML and XML documents. It represents the page so that programs can change the document structure, style, and content. Since a web page is a document, and this is a type of document that can be displayed, obviously, in a web browser or as the source code. So DOM-based cross-site scripting is where the JavaScript execution actually happens directly in the web browser without any new pages being loaded. Execution occurs when the website JavaScript code acts on input or with user interaction. An example of this would be getting the JavaScript code, getting the contents from the windows.location.hash parameter, and then writing that onto the page that's currently being viewed. But since the contents of the hash aren't actually being checked for malicious code, then this would allow an attacker to inject JavaScript of their choosing onto the web page. So reflected attack, that happens when user supplied data in an HTTP request is included in the web page source without any validation. And we'll kind of actually see this in the walkthrough below. An example could be an error message, which is in a query string of the URL that's reflected on the web page. And the URL could look something like this. So you see that you actually have some text of what's actually going on here actually in the string of the URL. And that can be bad in a few different ways. The error message could be replaced with JavaScript code, which then gets executed whenever the user visits the page. And we got two other ones. We got stored, which is when the payload is actually stored in the web application and then gets run when other users visit the website or the page. This type of cross-site scripting can be particularly damaging due to the fact that it has a wide spread of how many people it can impact, since it's hosted on a page and isn't directed at an individual user. An example of this could be a blog that allows users to visit and leave a comment. If a visitor's message is not properly validated, and again, we'll be doing this in the walkthrough, and check for cross-site scripting payload, then all of the subsequent visitors that visit the blog page could have the malicious code run against them. And then a blind cross-site scripting attack is going to be similar to the stored one, in that the payload gets stored for the website for another user to view. But in this instance, you can't see the payload working or be able to test it against yourself first. So the example they have here is a contact form, and in the contact form, your message could contain a malicious payload, and then when a member or staff goes to look at the message, then it gets executed. So all good stuff. Don't be worried if you're a little bit confused about all of that. Really, if you want to dig a little bit more into it, go check out some of the other rooms that I mentioned. So in this walkthrough, we do have a machine that we need to start up, which I've already done. So just click the green start button there. And once it is loaded, then you can go and you can click on this link to open it up. And we have an ELF forum here with a whole bunch of different threads that we can go down into, and kind of just talking about a whole bunch of different stuff. And we have like a login page that we can do here, which I think we're going to have to log in at some point, but we can kind of just see it's just the elves leaving good comments to each other, except Christmas is now Buttmas, which is no bueno. So let's see what they want us to do here. So yeah, we have a form that the elves are talking about, and we already clicked through the different topics and threads and notice that Buttmas is everywhere. So the Grinch has an admin account, installed a plugin which changes every mention of Christmas to Buttmas. And then you need to take over the Grinch account and disable the plugin to restore Christmas joy. So let's log in with the credentials that they give us here, so McSkitty and password. And then once we log in with that, they're going to want us to go to the settings page. And they'll notice that once we get to the settings page, there's a feature for changing the password. And once we can change the password, we're going to change it from password to password 123. Again, the cybersecurity practices up at the North Pole are pretty crappy. So we're going to change it to pass 123. And when we do that, we're going to look at what the URL is, and we're actually going to see, kind of like what we were mentioning before, that this data is actually visible here within the URL, which is no good. But we're going to end up using this later on to actually attack the Grinch to get his password automatically changed to what we want it to be able to log back into the forum. So let's do that real quick. We're going to take a look and go to setting, go to login. It was McSkitty. And password. All right. And now you see that it says log out and setting, which means that we are in with the right account. And we want to change this password to pass123. We're going to hit update. It's going to do that. And then if we go and we look at the URL here, I think that you can see this on the screen. Let's make sure that you can. Yep, you can see all the way up there at the top there. So right here, right? So it changed it to, or didn't change it, but we can see that that string is visible in the URL, which is no good. So the next thing they want us to do is we're going to kind of go see into the forums and see if we can leave a comment. And then we're also going to see if they're pulling the HTML tags out of the comments. Because if they aren't, then there's some stuff that we can do as far as putting in some other tags to insert a cross-site scripting. Insert cross-site scripting into the forum. So let us go to the ELF forum. We're just going to go to general. So excited And I think we're just going to do a hello world with the U tag there, which is going to underline it. So we can just go copy that in there. And we can see that that's there. And if we actually wanted to see this, what that actually looks like. So I'm using Safari here. I know we were kind of talking about how shitty or how crappy Safari is. If we go to Show Web Inspector, and then we go to, let's see, source code, we should be able to scroll down to where I put that in. Yep, and we can see in the source code here, you can see that I have my HTML tags were taken there. So, okay. So this means that the comment is reflected as you wrote it without the underlying HTML tags being stripped out. As they aren't being stripped out, we can try to use the HTML script tags instead to see if the website will run any JavaScript that is entered. Okay, so using the URL that we found earlier for changing the password, that's what we're going to do as the payload. So we're going to take this script here. And what the script is doing, the script tag tells the browser that you want to run a JavaScript or run some JavaScript. And the fetch command makes a network request to the specific URL. So this is going to be done automatically so that anyone who ends up actually seeing this comment will actually have this run against their account. And so the point here is that we log out, we're going to see if the Grinch has visited the thread, which is obviously automated, and the Grinch will go and visit the thread, and it should end up changing the Grinch's password to pass123. So let's go and throw this in the forum here. We're just going to, I don't know, just so we know what we're doing, payload. And we're just going to copy that script there. We're going to leave the comment. Now we're only going to see the cross-site scripting payload string there, and then the rest of it obviously isn't visible because of the type of tag that it is. So we also see, if we go down here, just looking at the source code, that yeah, the auditor refused to execute this. It's still going to work, but it's just kind of interesting to see, you know, what your web browser is actually doing with that. So, yep, stored cross-site scripting. Yep, exactly, and that's what we talked about when we were going through the 4 different types. So, I should be able to go and log out. Throw that up there. Yep, stored cross-site scripting. Yep. All right, now we should be able to log back in as the Grinch. Pass123. And we are now in as the Grinch. We go to settings and we see that he has the plugin there, the Christmas to Buttmas plugin, which we don't want that anymore. So we're gonna clean that up. And plugin is disabled, and we have the flag for this room. So we can go and throw that down here, hit submit, and that is it. So that is the cross-site scripting room for the ELF forum. Pretty good, pretty easy, but definitely a cool way to get a little bit of first-hand knowledge on cross-site scripting if you've never done that before. So if nobody has any questions or anything like that, then we can go ahead and wrap this up. Look forward to doing, what will it be, day 6 tomorrow? So we'll get that up. I'm going to try and do that one in the morning instead of in the afternoon now. So, all right. Hope everybody has a great afternoon, and go enjoy yourselves. All right. We will talk soon. All right.